Hello and welcome to cEDH Portuguese League. We are a group of Commander players that are promoting and organizing cEDH tournaments in Portugal. Today, we bring you the finals of our last tournament, Battle for the Wheel of Fortune, featuring Tiago, Kaká, Danilo and Bal competing fiercely for the first place. Danilo is playing Cazur Ukkima food chain list, which consists on quickly assembling a food chain loop and killing the table with its commander Ukkima. Kaká is playing a Tymna Kraum blue farm list, a deck that seeks to be the fastest deck, winning with Consultation Tassa or Honorable Breach and Lead combo. Bal is playing Evolution Kenrith list. This deck usually seeks to outvalue other decks at the table by multiple card draw lines and tends to win with Consultation Tassa combos as well. Tiago is playing Yisan Wanderer Bard. This is an adaptive deck with multiple stacks pieces to slow down its opponents and winning by beatdown or by Thought-Knot Seer loops. After his mulligan, Bal kept a hand with a Marsh Flats, a Deathrite Shaman for early ramp, a Dark Confidant for card advantage, a Vampiric Tutor and an Imperial Seal to gather his combo pieces or some interaction if needed, an Abrupt Decay for interaction, and an Hellish Norn for value. Tiago kept his first hand with 3 snow-covered forests, a Boreal Druid to ramp, and an Elvish Reclaimer to tutor for an utility land, a Trinisphere to slow down its opponents, and a Force of Vigor for interaction. Danilo also kept his first hand with a Command Tower, an Emergency Zone and a Bayou, Mana Vault and Elvish Mystique for ramp, a Tainted Pact to start his combo, and a Rhystic Study for card advantage. Kaká also had 2 mulligan once and kept a hand with a Bloodstained Mire, a Marsh Flats and an Arid Mesa, a Chrome Mox and a Dark Ritual for ramp, an Ad Nauseam and an Honorable Breach. Bal plays a Marsh Flats, fetching for an Underground Sea, taking 1 damage, and plays a Deathrite Shaman and passes the turn. Tiago plays a Snow-Covered Forest and also ramps by playing a Boreal Druid. Danilo plays a Command Tower followed by a Llanowar Elves, and ends his turn. Kaká plays a Polluted Delta fetching for an Underground Sea and also passes. On his turn, Bal skips his land drop and decides to play Dark Confidant for some much needed card advantage and passes the turn. Tiago untaps, plays another Snow-Covered Forest and plays his commander Yisan and passes the turn to Danilo. On his turn, he plays a Mana Confluence followed by a Ponder to find some interaction. He can't find anything on his top 3 cards, so he decides to shuffle his deck and draw a card. Kaká on his turn plays a Bloodstained Mire fetching for a Badlands, taking 1 damage, and plays a Chrome Mox, exiling a Gilded Drake, finishing his turn. On Bal's upkeep, he reveals a Gemstone Cavern to the Dark Confidant trigger and takes no damage. He then proceeds to his draw and plays a Tiger on his first main phase. He moves to combat, attacking Kaká for 2 damage with his Dark Confidant, and passes the turn in case some interaction is needed. Tiago starts his turn by playing yet another Snow-Covered Forest, followed by an Elvish Reclaimer, in hopes to find an utility land next turn. Danilo plays a Bayou, and tries to play a Rhystic Study. Kaká responds and tries to go off by playing a Dark Ritual to cast his Ad Nauseam, although Bal casts his Flusterstorm targeting Kaká's Ad Nauseam, and since Kaká has no way to stop Bal's Flusterstorm, the Ad Nauseam is countered and the Rhystic Study enters the battlefield. After that, Danilo takes 1 damage from the Mana Confluence and plays a Mana Vault, passing the turn to Kaká. On his turn, he plays a Marsh Flats, fetching for a Plateau and decides to ramp by playing Arcane Signet, not paying for the Rhystic trigger. Bal starts his turn with a Dark Confidant trigger, revealing a Birds of Paradise and taking 1 damage. He plays a Gemstone Caverns and decides to attack Danilo for 2 damage. After that, he plays a Birds of Paradise, paying the Rhystic Study trigger. In Bal's end step, Tiago activates Yisan ability, but Kaká in response casts Opposition Agent, triggering Rhystic Study, to which Bal responds to the trigger by casting a Vampiric Tutor, paying for the Rhystic Study's trigger. The tutor resolves, and then Danilo draws a card, the Opposition Agent enters the battlefield, allowing Kaká to resolve Yisan's ability, exiling an Allosaurus Shepherd. Moving to Tiago's turn, he starts by moves to combat, attacking Kaká and trying to force him to block with his Opposition Agent, but Kaká decides to take the damage instead. Tiago decides to slow down the game and plays a Trinisphere, passing the turn. Danilo plays an Emergency Zone. He then plays a Tainted Pact to which no one responds and he proceeds to find the food chain. He then plays the Culling Ritual, destroying almost all the battlefield and adding 5 black mana and 4 green mana to his mana pool. He proceeds to play a Praetor's Grasp targeting Kaká, searching for his Tainted Pact and casting it right away, putting a delay in his hand. Danilo decides to try and win the game, and casts Food Chain followed by an Elvish Mystique, but the table warns him right away that he only has 1 mana left and cannot cast the Elvis Mystique because of the Trinisphere tax. On Kaka's turn, he plays his commander Tymna, thinking about getting some value out of it, and moves to combat attacking Danilo. He remembered Kaka of the Ristic Study trigger that he didn't pay, so he draw a card, and after that Kaka passes a turn. On Bal's turn, he untaps and takes a minute to decide on what to do, but ends up passing the turn in case some interaction is needed. Tiago starts his turn by moving to combat and attacking Kaka once more for 2 damage with Yisan, and on his second main phase he surprises the table by casting a Force of Vigor, targeting Danilo's Ristic Study and Food Chain, paying for the Ristic trigger. With the threat dealt with, Tiago ends his turn. Just like Ball, Danilo also decides to pass the turn and save mana just in case. Moving to Kaka's turn, he plays an Arid Mesa, fetching for a Volcanic Island and casts his second commander Kraum, to which Danilo responds right away with a delay countering it. Kaka lets Kraum go to the exile with 3 suspend counters on it and moves to combat, sending Tymna at Tiago and the opposition agent at Bal. Before damage, Bal casts an Abrupt Decay on Tymna, stopping Kaka from buying more cards. With Tymna dead, Bal takes the damage and Kaka ends his turn. Bal on his turn is a bit unsure on what to play, but ends up paying 3 to cast a Lotus Petal, and passes the turn to Tiago. Tiago starts his turn by playing a Duskwatch Recruiter, moves to combat sending Yisan at Danilo for 2 damage, and ends his turn. Since the game state is a bit controlled, Danilo simply plays an Elvish Mystique on his turn and passes to Kaka. On his turn, he plays Tymna for the second time, moving to combat right away, sending his opposition agent at Bal, triggering Tymna's ability to buy a card, and ends his turn. Bal moves to his turn and plays a Phantasmal Image copying Tymna, seeking for some card advantage, and passes to Tiago. On his turn, he simply moves to combat, sending Yisan once more at Danilo and ends his turn. At Danilo's upkeep, Tiago's Duskwatch Recruiter triggers and transforms into Krallen Horde Howler. Danilo then takes a moment to decide on what to do and plays an Elves of Deep Shadow, passing the turn. Kaka begins his turn by moving straight to combat, sending Tymna at Danilo and the opposition agent at Bal. Although Bal is reluctant on losing his Phantasmal Image, he decides to block the opposition agent, with it killing both opposition agent and Phantasmal Image. Danilo, on the other hand, decides to take the damage, triggering Tymna's ability. On his second main phase, Kaka plays a Mana Crypt and a Soul Ring and ends his turn. At Bal's upkeep, Tiago's Krallen Horde triggers and transforms back into the Duskwatch Recruiter. Bal then plays a Dockside Extortionist, creating 3 treasures, and passes to Tiago. On his hand step, Tiago activates the Duskwatch Recruiter's ability, revealing a Circle of Dreams Druid, and puts it into his hand. Since the opposition agent is dead, Tiago decides to play safe and pass the turn. Danilo also decides to pass the turn and save some mana in case some interaction is needed. At the beginning of Kaka's upkeep, he has 2 triggers on the stack. He first rolls a die and escapes from the creep damage, and the last suspend trigger is removed from Kraum, so he casts it from the exile, but the other players remind him that he still needs to pay from the Trinisphere tax, so he proceeds to pay 3 mana for Kraum. With Kraum already on the battlefield, he proceeds to combat, sending Tymna at Danilo and Kraum at Tiago. They both take the damage, triggering Tymna's ability to draw, and on his second main phase, he plays a Spellseeker, fetching for a Brain Freeze. At the beginning of Bal's upkeep, Tiago's Krallen Horde triggers once again and transforms back into the Duskwatch Recruiter. After some consideration, Bal proceeds to play Survival of the Fittest and discards right away an Eternal Witness to fetch for Dranith's Magistrate, which he plays before passing the turn, triggering Kaka's Kraum to draw a card. Before moving to his turn, Tiago activates Yisan to fetch a Scavenging Ooze, which he activates right away, exiling Kaka's opposition agent, gaining 1 life this way, and after some advices from the table, Kaka's Tainted Pact as well. On his turn, Tiago moves straight to combat, sending Scavenging Ooze to Kaka, dealing 2 damage. On his end step, Danilo plays an Ad Nauseam, to which Kaka quickly responds with an Unsubstantiate. After his Ad Nauseam getting countered, Danilo decided not to play anything on his turn and passes to Kaka. At the beginning of Kaka's upkeep, Tiago's Duskwatch Recruiter triggers once again, transforming into Krallen Horde. Kaka then plays a Watery Grave, moves to combat, sending Kraum at Danilo and triggering Tymna's ability to draw a card. On his second main phase, he plays a Wishclaw Talisman and tries to go off by casting an Underworld Breach. Without noticing Baal's Dranis Magistrate, he's still alive. Kaká then decides to activate Wishclaw Talisman, giving it to Tiago and passing the turn sacrificing the Underworld Breach. Baal starts his turn by doing some threat assessment on the table and decides to play safe by casting a Mana Vault and passing the turn. On his end step, Tiago activates Yisan's ability, to which Danilo responds with his Ad Nauseam, taking 11 damage. With that, Tiago fetches for a Llanowar Tribe and activates Scavenging Ooze to exile Baal's Eternal Witness and Phantasmal Image, gaining 2 life this way. Tiago begins his turn by playing a Snow-Covered Forest, followed by a Circle of Dreams Druid. He then moves to combat, sending Krallen Horde to Danilo and the Scavenging Ooze at Baal. They both take the damage, and on his second main phase, he plays a Manglehorn, triggering Kraum. Manglehorn then resolves, destroying Kaká's Soul Ring, and Tiago ends his turn. At the beginning of Danilo's turn, Krallen Horde triggers, transforming into the Squatch Recruiter. On his main phase, Danilo plays a Carpet of Flowers and moves to his second main phase, adding 2 black mana to his mana pool. He then plays an Opposition Agent, to which Tiago responds, activating Yisan, fetching for a Thought-Knot Seer. Tiago then looks at Kaká's hand and exile a Thassa's Oracle, and with that the opposition enters the battlefield and Danilo ends his turn. At the beginning of Kaká's turn, he rolls a die and takes 3 damage from the Mana Creep trigger. He moves straight to combat, sending everything at Danilo. Danilo is obligated to block with everything, or else he dies. After damage resolves, Spellseeker, Elves of Deep Shadow and Elvish Mystique both die, and Kaká draws a card from the Tymna's trigger. He then discards out to 7 and ends his turn. On his turn, Baal decided, after some threat assessment, that he needs to do something about Tiago. So he plays an Hellish Norn, dealing with most of the problem, and moves to his end step. Before Tiago's turn, Kaká plays a Snapback, targeting Yisan, sending it to his hand. Still, Tiago reveals that he had an Ashai ready for next turn. On Tiago's upkeep, Kaká preferred to play safe and cast an Angel's Grace, guaranteeing that Tiago wouldn't win. Yet, Tiago moves to combat and sends his Thought-Knot Seer at Danilo, killing him this way and ending the final. Due to the COVID pandemic, the finals had a time limit, so after Tiago killed Danilo, the game had to end, and because the game ended in a tie, the staff had to use tiebreaks to decide the winner. After the staff gathered, the positions were the following. The 4th place goes to Danilo, playing Cazur Ukkima. The 3rd place goes to Kaká, playing Tymna Kraum. The 2nd place goes to Baal, piloting Kenrith, and the 1st place goes to Tiago, piloting Yisan. Congratulations and a big thanks to all the players that entered this tournament. If you like our content, please like and subscribe, or you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. You can also be a part of our community and enter these tournaments by joining our Discord server on the link in the description below. We would like to thank the SplitSecond for the partnership and the Rened Vir for the sponsorship and a place to run our tournaments. Thanks very much, and we hope you enjoyed.